Time to form the right habits is very early, but it's the right habits, the habits that you would admire in someone else and want to buy 10% of whatever individual that is, they're absolutely obtainable. And if you had to sell short one other member of your class, you know, these deals always come with a hooker, and you had to pay 10% of their earnings, again, you wouldn't pick the person with the lowest grades or anything. You'd think about the person who always cut corners or claimed credit for things that they didn't do, never showed up on time. All these little things that seem like nothing, but they determine whether if you have a 300 horsepower motor, whether you get 300 horsepower of output out of it or whether you get a whole lot less. And the people I see that function well are not necessarily the people with the biggest motors, but they're the people with the most efficient motors. And it's those qualities of character that really make an enormous difference. So what I would suggest to you is think about that person you'd buy 10% of and the one you'd short 10% of, and think about why you would do it. And then ask yourself, what on this left-hand side of the list can't I achieve myself, and what on the right-hand side of the list can't I get rid of myself if I possess it? And in the end, you know, decide you're going to be the person that you buy the 10% of. That's enough of the sermon. I'd like to answer questions now, and really the nastier they are, the better I like it, because it's much more fun, makes it more interesting. So let's start off with one here.
Mr. Buffett, I was reading, it sounds like you're in Charlie Munger's analysis of some companies very back of the envelope. Could you just tell us about the financial analysis that you do on companies, whether it be like Rose Blumkin's Furniture Mart or whether it be Coca-Cola?
Well, yeah, those are two good examples. There's a Furniture Mart in Omaha that's going to do, at one location, $230 million of business. It's more than twice as much business as any other single-store furniture operation in the country. And it's not really run by now, but she's still the spiritual head of the place. A woman named Rose Blumkin is going to be 101 years of age in December. And she came over here and landed in Seattle with a tag around her neck, and couldn't speak a word of English. The Red Cross got her, actually got her to Iowa first, and then she came over and started this store. After bringing over 7 siblings and her mother and father from Russia, she started this store with $500, and now has a store that does $230 million. She works 7 days a week. She's working, you know, as we talk, she'll be working Sunday, and amazing woman. And the punchline, she put all these people out of business. The punchline is that she can't read or write. Yeah, her business will make $22 million, $23 million pre-tax this year. If you told her this room was 47 by 38, she would tell you how many square yards that is in her head, and extend it out at $5.98 a yard and add the sales tax and knock off something because she liked you. It is a real story. So I would say, incidentally, on something like that, that's all the analysis you need. If you can buy into a business that's run by somebody or with their family that runs it that way. Our total legal and accounting fees in buying that business were $1,400. And it was a one-page contract, and it just affirmed that she owned the place, and that I was going to get good title, and that there was no audit. I never looked to see what the real estate records were on the 60 acres in Omaha or anything of the sort. But I just knew that anything she said was so, and you feel very comfortable buying a business like that. I mean, I think that any good investment idea probably can be put in one paragraph. I mean, now, there are all kinds of investment ideas that I'm not going to be able to understand. I believe very strongly, as does Mrs. B, as Rose Blumkin is called, I believe very strongly in operating with what I call my circle of competence. And the most important thing in terms of your circle of competence is not how large the area of it is, it's how well you've defined the perimeter. If you know where the edges are, you're way better off than somebody that's got one that's 5 times as large, but they get very fuzzy about the edge, around the edges. And I can understand some kinds of simple businesses. I can't understand complicated businesses. Coca-Cola was about 110 years old now, and selling 750 million 8-ounce servings of their products a day around the world. Per capita consumption going up in virtually every country in the world after about 110 years or so, and it has 47% of the soft drink consumption throughout the world outside the United States, 41% of the United States, and gaining share every year. It isn't very complicated. I mean, you have to decide, A, whether it's a product that is somewhat durable, which I think illustrated, and whether the appeal is universal, which it certainly is, and then whether you have honest and competent management running it, which you most certainly do. Peter Lynch has always said, buy a business that's so good that any idiot can run it, because sooner or later one will. We would like to buy a business like that, and then we'd like a terrific guy running it. And we had two terrific people at Coke running it. All we're trying to do is try and find businesses we think we can understand, where we like the people running them, and where the price makes sense in relation to the future economics. And when I find that, I like to buy a lot of it and keep it. And they're hard enough to find that I don't believe in selling them very often, because it's hard to find replacements. Are we over here now? Yeah.
Mr. Buffett, how do you know when to sell a business, and when is it time to do that?
Well, the question about selling a really great business is never, because to sell off something that is a really wonderful business because the price looks a little high or something like that, it's almost always a mistake. And it took me a long time to learn that. I haven't fully learned it yet, but it's rare that it makes sense. If you really believe that the long-term economics of the business are terrific, it's very rare it makes any sense to sell it. Now, if you get into some technology company or something where five guys are out in a garage someplace doing something that's going to change the whole industry, that's beyond me anyway. If you try to jump from flower to flower among groups like that, I think you probably have to, because I'm not sure that you can pick permanent winners. But I would say that if you keep it very simple, we own a lot of Gillette, for example. There are 21 billion razor blades used in the world a year. 30% of those are Gillettes, but 60% by value are Gillettes. They have 90% market shares in some countries, in Scandinavia and Mexico. Now, when something's been around as long as shaving, and you find a company that has that kind of both innovative power in terms of developing better razors all the time, plus the distribution power and the position in people's minds, for an item that only costs $20 a year. I mean, the difference, here's something you do every day. I hope you do it every day. And for $20 a year, you get a terrific shaving experience. Now, men are not inclined to shift around a lot, when they get that kind of a situation. So you get that, and who knew was come into the blade market? Wilkinson 30 years ago had a shot for a period like that, and it didn't take advantage of it with a stainless steel blade. But it's not going to change a lot. And I like businesses where I think I know what it's going to look like in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. And I think I know what Gillette will look like, and I think I know what Coke will look like. And it opens up around the whole. I mean, for one thing, you go to bed feeling very comfortable. Just thinking of 2.5 billion males with hair growing while you sleep. I mean, no one at Gillette has trouble sleeping. I mean, it's like investments. That's the beauty of the investment business. I don't have to be right on all of these companies I don't understand. I don't have to be right on Oracle Systems or Microsoft or DuPont. I just have to be right on one decision a year. It's a beautiful business that way. I was in the department store business for a while. Don't ask me why. But I was in it, and if my competitor air conditioned, I had air conditioned. If my competitor offered 18-month terms instead of 12-month terms, I had to offer it. If you put in an escalator, I had to put in. All of those were defensive decisions. I had to make those like that. I mean, he was throwing pitches at me, and I had to swing, no matter whether the ball was good or not. But in investments, there's no such thing as a called strike. You can stand there at the plate.